Have you ever felt anxious that your paintings don't have style? Or perhaps that your work just doesn't feel unique enough? It doesn't really feel like it is uniquely yours. Now, I've definitely been there, and I'll tell you a little story. When I was in art school, one of my friends, who was just a level up from me, came to me after one of her classes, and she was really upset by a critique that she had with one of her painting professors. He told her point blank that there is no style in painting. She was understandably really upset by this and very much disagreed with that statement. And I was equally upset by this. I was actually completely shocked and was horrified that a painting professor would make such a statement. All I could think of was, wasn't style really everything? Wasn't that one big aspect that made an artist recognizable and also great? Years later, I finally came to understand exactly what he meant, and it completely transformed how I approach painting. So in today's video, I'm going to show and share with you why you can't force a style in painting. And I'm going to show you what to do instead to allow your real voice to emerge naturally in your work. When we hear the word style, we usually imagine it as something that we choose intentionally, like we would pick out an outfit or choose the color of a room. We think of style as the thing that makes our work recognizable, like having really loose, expressive brushstrokes, or maybe really tight, detailed precision, or perhaps these really beautiful, earthy, muted colors, or maybe bright, vibrant ones, or maybe it's, still lifes, or portraits, or dreamy landscapes. And yes, these visual elements are part of what people might describe as a style. However, here's the truth about it. You can't just pick a way of painting or a style and expect for it to feel authentic. When that painting instructor said that there is no style in painting, what he meant was this: style is not something that you decide on from the outside and then imitate. It isn't something trendy that you put on. It's not a formula. Instead, what we think of as style is really your voice, which grows out of years of painting and study and exploration. I'm going to share another story from my art school days that illustrates this really well. So I had a classmate, his studio was actually right next to mine, and he was completely obsessed with Frank Auerbach, or Frank Auerbach. And he just looked at his paintings so much, studied them, and painted really kind of just like him, like did the brushwork the same way, used a lot of paint, just really worked very, very similarly. So as time goes by, we have a visiting artist come and who very kindly gave us all critiques, and we had them all together. And when it came to his turn, he shook his head, the visiting artist shook his head, and he told him point blank that his paintings were just very bad pastiches of Frank Auerbach. So just basically calling them really, really bad imitations. And we all felt so badly for this person. We all knew just how much he had worked on his paintings and how much he loved what he was doing. But that really illustrates the point that we are making here. You can't force a style by just copying the surface look of another artist's work. If you do, your paintings just become hollow imitations, instead of genuine expressions of your own voice. So if we can't just pick or choose a style, what should we then focus on? The answer to that is that you should be focusing on developing your own voice in your work. It's your way of how you interpret the world around you. It's the thing that makes your work yours. Your own voice can also be seen as your own sensibility. In what ways do you appreciate things around you in an aesthetic way? And in what ways are you sensitive to the world around you? For example, we all have different sensibilities towards color and subject matter. We could all be painting in the same room and painting the exact same thing, but yet all of our paintings would look very different. And that's because we all approach what we're painting in different ways. Some people might approach it in a very soft and gentle manner, while other people might kind of interpret what they're seeing in very bold and kind of strong ways. Now that, of course, is a very simplified breakdown, but the point is that We all have very unique ways of seeing the world and interpreting everything around us. And the way you see the world is incredibly unique to you and no one else. It's something that you cannot fake, and it's something that can't be borrowed. It's uniquely yours. But the big question is, how do you kind of figure out what your sensibilities are, what your voice is? And moreover, more importantly, how do you actually make it come through in your work? It's one thing to kind of understand sort of what your sensibilities are and what your voice is, but then to actually make that happen in your work is a whole nother thing. One important step to getting there is to master the fundamentals. And these are value, color, edges, and composition. These are the foundations of painting. It's the language of painting. And you have to be fluent in it in order to really be able to create art. Just think of a poet who's trying to write poetry in, let's say, Spanish. They're not fluent in Spanish. They just know a few words here and there, and they can say some things. It's going to be really, really difficult to write good poetry in that language when you're not fluent in it. And not to mention, it's going to be even more difficult to develop and find your voice when you're not fluent. Now, I really like to compare the act of learning the language of painting, learning those fundamentals of painting, to someone learning an instrument and how to play music. So when someone is starting out learning an instrument, they first learn scales and arpeggios, and they learn simple songs. And then as they practice a lot, they progress and they play more, complicated songs, scales, and arpeggios, and it's on and on it goes, etc. And as they progress, they become more intimately connected to their instrument, and that they know exactly where to put their finger to get a particular note, and they don't really have to think so much about that. And so as that happens, it frees you up to be able to enter into a whole different realm of actually making music. You can improvise, you can have the freedom to kind of change things, you have the freedom to play whatever piece you want to play, and really infuse your own personal voice into it, kind of how you interpret the music. And that would not be possible if you didn't really learn those foundations of music and how your instrument works and how to actually play your instrument. So now let's recap real quick what those fundamentals are that you need to deeply understand. So the first one is value. This is the most important one, and that is how light and dark something is. The second one is color. Now this is a loaded topic that we could go on and on for hours and hours here, but I'm going to focus on one aspect of color, and that is color temperature. And so that is the color, some colors are warmer than or cooler than the colors that they are next to. I have a whole video on color temperature that you can check out. I will link that below. Third one is edges. Your painting needs to be made up of soft and hard edges. The fourth one is composition, and that is all about how you decide to design your painting, where you decide to put certain elements in your painting and how to arrange them. Now, in addition to deeply understanding the fundamentals, it's really important to also immerse yourself in the work of painters that you absolutely love. It might seem counterintuitive to look at other people's work when you're in a way trying to develop your own voice and kind of finding your own voice, but it actually is a really important step to developing your own voice and finding your own voice. All these artists that we admire, they looked at other painters and they learned from other painters. When you're studying works of art that you really love, you're seeking to add an aspect of that work to your own work because it speaks to you, something about it really resonates with you. And this is all part of developing your own voice. A musician doesn't develop in isolation on their own. They have teachers they look up to, mentors that they have, and that they try to emulate. And when I say study works of painters that you love, I don't mean just look at them online or look at them, just on your phone, but actually look at books of them and make master copies after them. Actually copy the work. It's amazing what you miss when you're just kind of looking at a piece of art versus when you actually make a master copy after it to study it. There's so much more that we see, but don't try to make replicas after them, but study them. Try to capture the spirit of the painting and understand how it's structured and how it's built. And when you study all the different works of painters that you love and admire, when you make master copies after them, they'll all blend together in a blender, and it will truly be unique to you. All these different aspects that you take and that you learn and that you absorb into your own work. And I do want to make an important note here that it's when you're kind of looking at other artists' work, it's really important to not copy their work, to not make your own work look just like their work, because that's a complete dead end that we already covered earlier on when I talked about my fellow classmate who was making just copies basically of another artist's work. That's not going to lead anywhere, and it's not going to let you to expand and grow and really understand and develop your own voice. But when you're looking at other artists' work and doing master copies, what you're doing is learning from them, learning from the wisdom that they offer, and learning how to understand how they're doing what they do. And you're adding that to your own work and making it your own. Now, all of this is not a quick process. Developing your own voice and your own sense of style is not something that happens overnight or during a single workshop. Rather, it's a slow process that you engage in, and as you consistently paint, you consistently fail and learn, and you just, in essence, you just consistently show up to your painting practice. Sometimes it will feel very frustrating and you'll feel probably quite lost and maybe even inconsistent, but that discomfort is actually a really important part of the whole journey because we don't ever grow or develop without ever going through some degree of discomfort. But here's the really, really great part. When you focus on the fundamentals and just honest exploration, your voice will emerge just naturally as a byproduct. And what I mean by really focusing on the fundamentals is really just that. Really kind of giving a lot of weight to value and really, really deeply focusing on that, and color temperature, edges, composition, all of those things. When you bring all those things together and really dive deep into them, you will kind of come out of that, not just developing your skills really deeply in the fundamentals and becoming a very skilled painter, but also you will come through just understanding your own kind of sensibilities in painting and your own voice, and that will show through. And as you become more adept just in the fundamentals, you will naturally just be able to feel kind of the skill and in a way freedom to explore kind of your artistic voice more. All great painters have a distinct style and voice because of their immense degree of skill in the fundamentals. And it's because of that that they have the freedom to expand and explore. And when you focus on the fundamentals and just allow your voice to emerge naturally, it's not going to feel forced or artificial, but rather it's going to feel really authentic. I like to sometimes use real-life examples to compare things in painting because I feel like it helps to understand painting a little bit better. So let's say, for example, you have two kind of different relationships. You have one relationship with a friend where you're both very honest with one another and you really communicate authentically with one another. You're going to have a rather deep relationship because of that, because you really can understand each other and you can feel very open and just, again, communicate on a far deeper level than, let's say, in another relationship you have with someone else, you really don't really communicate from an authentic place and you aren't very honest with one another. It's going to be a very shallow relationship and it's going to be very limited. And the same is with painting. And again, painting, it really is visual communication. You're visually communicating with your audience. And if you communicate in a very honest way, there's going to be a much deeper sort of communication level that you can have with your audience compared to if you are just very shallowly working and kind of working from a place that's not very authentic. It's going to be shallow. To be authentic in your painting, do not worry so much about style. Rather, I really encourage you to focus on discovery and learning over trying to impress or kind of generate an artificial type of style. So to summarize all the actions you should take, paint a lot more, go deep into the fundamentals until they become second nature. Study the painters you love by copying and analyzing their work. And then just embrace the slow, organic growth of your own voice. If you look at any great painter and look at the trajectory of all their life's work, you will notice that there's a slow development of their voice and their work. It takes time to develop that and for it to change. And it's really important to trust the process, and that if you keep on painting and truly engage very closely with the process. Your voice will emerge and develop as a result. Now, if there's anything that you would like to add to the discussion, please leave those in the comment section below. Or if you have any questions or just like to say hi, please also leave that below. I always love hearing from you. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It all helps me to make more content just like this. And don't forget to download my free color mixing starters guide, which you can find at the link below. It's completely free. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.